Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I'm also a faculty fellow at the Business School and at the Newcomb Institute, where I'm studying narrativity and fiber. And of course, I just want to quilt. Okay, so today we talk with Veronica Wasek. She is an accountant and she focuses on creatives and has an incredible website called 5-Minute Bookkeeping, which is really cool and does consulting. And Joel Sellers joins us as well. So it's super fun.
Veronica Wasek from Sugar Land, Texas.
Sugar Land, Texas. Awesome. How far is that from Houston? Are you far from Houston?
No, I'm actually just down the freeway. So we're a suburb of Houston, about 20 minutes from downtown, although I could be in Houston proper in 10 minutes.
Wow, cool. Then have you been to the International Quilt Festival that's there?
Yes, several times, and I just went this past November or October, whenever it was.
Right. Very cool. And do you have a memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life?
Yes, actually, my mom it was a seamstress, and she actually learned that trade from my great-grandfather. And so there was always sewing. I was always seeing people sewing in my life, and there was actually a sewing machine in my bedroom. So I have very early memories of my mom sewing, the sewing machine, of being very intrigued by the sewing machine and wanting to sew at the machine like my mom did. And she thought it was too dangerous because of the needle. And so she would let me play with scraps of fabric and make clothing for my dolls. Very cool. And I would hand sew them.
Cool. And have you done, so you have tell me a little bit about sort of, you really focus on like creative industry. Am I right with accounting? Or just generally? Tell me a little bit about sort of, I'm trying to understand the connection between sort of why focus on that. Like, is there something in your background? Did you see a need? Sort of tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I started my accounting business 9 years ago, and initially sort of struggled and decided to focus on Quickbooks. And so for the past 9 years, worked heavily with a variety of industries, a lot of service-based businesses. I worked with creatives more on the marketing side of the business. But this year in particular, I wanted to really start narrowing the focus of my company, and looked at different niches and finally just thought, well, hey, why not people who make something? So quilters, creatives, designers, right. And because really it's so natural to what I do already, yeah. and I understand their world. And so I understand the business side of it as well as the creative side of it. And
tell me how you understand the creative. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about how you understand the creative side.
Well, being a creative myself and just being drowned in ideas all the time, that it's very difficult to focus, and especially in a business. I see my business, even though it's an accounting business, I see it as an expression of my creativity. And so just drowning in ideas of how can I do this different, or how can I do that, or how can we create a service that addresses our clients' needs? How can we market ourselves different? It's just so hard to focus. And then understanding creatives, because numbers are not their friends. Most creatives are not comfortable with numbers and generally just want to push it away. And so really coming to those creatives now and saying, hey, I understand where you're coming from, understand what you're dealing with, and here are some ways in which we can help you to engage with your financials and not make them so intimidating.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so I'm a creative. I come to you. where do we start with your, and are you using QuickBooks? And so for those that are listening, QuickBooks is a online app or a downloadable app that helps keep track of all kinds of things that are accounting related. And there's other ones like Zoho Books and what are the other ones? There's a bunch of them out there. But QuickBooks is like the dominant one out there.
Yes.
So do you, when you're working with someone, are you using that as a basis? Do they have to have a QuickBook account? And which one do you recommend if that's true?
Sure. So most of our clients, when they come to us, they are already using QuickBooks, and we focus on QuickBooks Online because it's cloud-based, and that is what enables us to work with clients all around the country. And then when we are talking to a prospective client, we first do just an initial call just to understand what their needs are. I really do a lot of listening at that point because usually people have a lot of emotion around whatever issues they're dealing with their financials. And I listen, and then we see if there's a connection, if we might be able to work together. And then we make a plan for how we will go forward.
It's so funny because Joel's nodding to that about the emotional the emotional component of it.
Yeah, when I did consulting, I always felt like I should have had a psychiatry license, because it was kind of that whole, you do counseling while you're going through all that. Because you're right, it's very emotional to people. It's their lives.
Yeah, it's emotional, and I think it's really for those clients, they're letting us into their financial closet, really. Mm-hmm. And we all know that, we'd all like to think we have these organized closets, but we don't. And so then you're letting someone into a part of your life that is disorganized. And there's embarrassment and sometimes even shame.
Totally agree.
And so
I feel that way because Joel's been working with us, and I sort of am like, oh, right now I have to admit to Joel, like, I don't know, it feels very much like either I'm not going to tell her at all, or like,
that's a bad idea. Right? You must tell me.
I know. Or I'm going to tell her and she's going to be the most trusted person that I know, because I think financial stuff is so important, and so like it's, think about the dentist, the doctor, and your accountant, right? Those are the people that like you have to actually tell what's happening. And that's really hard to do. Mm-hmm. So you've got to find someone that you connect with and feel comfortable with to do this. And do you feel like one of the other things that seems really interesting to me is that because there's so much focus on apps right now, that we lose the human component to it, that people think, oh, I can just do it online by myself. And that's not necessarily true. So where do you fit? I mean, because you have QuickBooks and you can do it online, where does a service like yours or like Joel fit with that, with online do-it-yourself kind of thing?
Well, what I like to say usually is like you can buy a race car, but it doesn't make you a race car driver.
Totally. That's my husband.
That's good.
Yeah, totally. My husband says that about guitars because he keeps buying them. He's like, if it was just about buying them, I'd be really good at playing the guitar. Right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So just because you can buy this tool and it's so easily accessible, and yes, that's great. And unfortunately now with the way technology is, that that doesn't work the way that they're really telling you that it works. And so there's still a lot of things that you have to do, even with automation, even if you can connect QuickBooks to your bank account and transactions download into your QuickBooks, the books aren't getting automatically done.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I'm helping clients with is this customizing a setup for their business. So for example, if they're selling online and maybe they're selling in multiple channels, all that data isn't making it into their QuickBooks, or maybe they're bringing it in transaction by transaction, and maybe they have 1,000 transactions a day. That's too much to deal with. So it might be customizing that setup, helping them get things organized. Maybe they're doing things, but they don't have the right habits in place yet to do their own books. With some clients, we're consulting with them and helping them set up how they're managing their inventory, for example. So it can be anywhere from helping that solopreneur to get things set up and organized all the way to a larger business and consulting and helping them streamline what they're doing.
That's very cool. All right, so I always wonder, like, how, and we're going to go, if you're cool with it, I'd like to go through more of what your services are, but how, if people are listening, first, it's, your website is vmwasek.com.
Yeah.
So
vmwasek.com.
vmwasek.com. And I'll do it one more time in case people didn't hear it. V as in Victor, M as in Mary, and then W as in, I don't know, wave, ASEK. And so we'll have a link to that in your podcast as well. So how expensive are your services? Because that's always like the first place I go is like, can I afford this? And sort of how do you deal with solopreneurs who are just starting out and don't have a huge budget?
Yes, and that is a question I'm asked a lot, and I can totally understand it. And first of all, I think the main thing to understand is that what I usually say is you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And sometimes people go for, hey, that's cheap, I'll go for that. Well, you're getting cheap. So in terms of my services, I customize all of my services based on our clients' specific needs.
Yeah.
And I give them upfront pricing.
That's great.
So I don't work by the hour. They're never surprised by how much I would charge them because we agree on it ahead of time. So we agree on what our deliverables are, what we will be doing for them, and then we also agree on that price.
Got it.
Good.
And I think that's something that for anyone who's looking at someone to help them with services, whether it's an attorney, an accountant, marketing, to really be upfront about the pricing and to make sure now, and then I imagine you do it in writing.
Yes.
And that's also really important too, so that the pricing doesn't creep or that you don't get something that you thought that you were going to get something and you didn't. So when you're working with a professional, remember what you're paying for is they're professional. So you're paying for their expertise and that's what you're getting so that you don't yourself have to figure it all out. So,
yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let's talk about that. You have 3 categories. One is do your own books, DIY bookkeeping. Do you think that most of us can do our own bookkeeping?
The accountant in me is going to say no, but it depends on where you are in your business. I think a lot of it depends on where are you in your journey in your business. And so if you are the solopreneur, if you're just starting out, and if your financials are simple, then you can do your own books. You might and probably do need some help from your accountant, even just once a year, to sort of clean up some things so you can have a more accurate tax return. But as you grow, and especially once you start adding employees, because that's a whole other level of complexity there and potential source of problems if you don't get it right. So once you're adding employees, once you want to really see what your profits are, so where am I profitable? What can I do now to change the direction of my business based on what the numbers are telling me? Then that's when you need the help of a professional then to customize what you're doing and really then be able to have clarity into, say, your sources of revenue. So what are your revenues? What are your cost of goods? And then looking at, and even further down, looking at what we call key performance indicators. And so focusing on just a few key numbers so that you can then manage your profitability. So for example, gross margin would be one of those. That is just revenue minus cost of goods sold is your gross margin. So that's like your profit on the goods that you sell. And so you want to have a goal for what that number should be. And if you're not hitting that number, then you have to make changes in order to attain that goal.
How do you know? It's so funny because we've done so much. Do you agree with before?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's so funny because we've done so much. I've done so much entrepreneurial stupid forms of, like projections and all that kind of stuff. And I always find it really a struggle because, like, how do you know? Like, when you're first starting out, it seems really impossible. How do you know if you're going to sell, like, 5 widgets or 5,000 widgets? And so I find that hard. Do you feel like you need to sort of get a little bit under your belt before you're sort of trying to make these kinds of projections? Or like, how do you realistically, I don't know. I always hate when people are like, oh, and then you're going to make millions of dollars. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like, that's not in my experience. I mean, I'm sure it happens to some people, but I think it just makes it feel like you failed when you don't, you know?
Yeah, that is a challenge. And even in my own business, I have set financial goals and then I don't hit those goals. But I think that you have to have a goal.
You do.
And even if you don't hit it, at least you then had a roadmap for getting to some sort of goal that you wanted to hit. Because the opposite would be that you have no goals whatsoever and you're not doing anything to move forward.
You're wandering around waiting for fate to do it for you.
Yes.
You know?
I think I've gotten to a point in my life where, I mean, we'll have goals, I promise. We'll make goals. We'll listen to you. We'll totally do that. But with this project, it's been so weird because we have had no product, no goals, no we're just like goofy. And it's been better than the other projects where we were very aggressive about like, we're going to try to make this thing happen. You know, I think like maybe it's the concept of organic and low expectations. So when we sell like 30 books, we're like, oh my God, we sold 30 books. It's so great. So I don't know. I think there's a medium. I think people can get sort of fixated on all of that. And maybe it's sort of whatever helps you to be motivated. And that's really what the goal is about. So our goal is really like, what cool thing can we do next? Or how can we do this? Or how can we have more fun? And so like, since we're a fun-based organization as opposed to money-based organization, the money comes second because we really do want to focus on creating a really cool community. So I don't know. It's interesting. But I mean, having done this now for 12 years, I'm not as focused on the goals as, I mean, maybe we should be. We should be like, okay, next we're going to sell 500 books. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to know. I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm getting tired and confused. But it feels like, I don't know. I don't know. Like we've sold books. We sold out at market. We have this book called Just Wanna Trademark. It's super great. And we have a couple of others. But we're really pushing hard the trademark book because we think socially everybody should be registering their trademark because it's the core of your business. Yeah. And I think that's driving us as much as anything. So I think the metrics, the books become then how many people have bought the books helps us to see how much impact we're having. And maybe that's because we're more of a social entrepreneur organization and that we're driven by trying to change people's thinking as opposed to money. And so maybe that's the same metric. I don't know. I know it's kind of weird. But I guess because I'm a creative and I'm like being very sort of, I am your client, right? I'm like very hesitant about the money and the numbers and all of that. But I know we need to be financially self-sufficient. Do you see people like me coming to you and being kind of weirded out by like hitting numbers, talking numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you have to then look at where is that coming from. And because I have had to do the same in my own business, is that coming from a place of fear, which for me, that's sort of my go-to is fear.
Yeah.
And is that what's holding me back?
I think it's shyness. I think I feel a bit shy about, I'm a law professor, so I tell people, I mean, it's not that people aren't paying to hear me. They're paying a lot of money to be in my classes, right? They pay $40,000 a year. When you break that down, it's like horrific how much money they pay to be in that hour-long class. So it isn't like I'm not getting, and I get paid well. So I do get paid to speak, but I think it's shifting. Now see, it's all psychological, but I feel really shy about all of it. I think the books that we're creating are super important, and they're really great, and I feel really proud of them. But it's also this notion of people crossing that threshold of people paying for things directly in a kind of sales way, which is very new. Now, see, it's psychological. It's all about me now. I'm such a mess.
We can work on you, Elizabeth.
Right, exactly.
Well, and I have had a similar journey because I also have an online academy for bookkeepers. Mm-hmm. And initially thinking of, I'm going to sell all these courses and I'm going to make all this money. And then realizing that it is about what your audience or your community needs.
Right.
And then providing them the products that they need. And so it doesn't feel then like you're being this like, I'm gonna be rich.
I know, exactly.
It's like, I'm using my expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I have walked this road further than you, or I have more, I'm educated in a particular area, like law, for example, in your case. And so people should pay for that expertise with the understanding then that you're helping them, because they're the ones telling you they need this product. So by them buying your book,
that's right.
They're telling you they need the product.
Right. And that's the metric that we're looking at, is like, how much do people need it? What other services should we provide? Yeah, exactly. So I think if we think about it that way, of like how many creatives do we want to try to get to help them register their trademark, it feels better to me than like how many books are we going to sell, and like that kind. It just seems more authentic, I guess, to me. And I imagine that's sort of the same thing with you, of how many people can you help with accounting, and how can you help them thrive, their businesses thrive. And that's a better way to think about it, is sort of your ethos or your goal in what you're doing, so that you have that motivation. Okay.
Yeah, and I think you do have to look at it that way of when I'm working with a business, I'm not just working with that business owner. That business is sustaining its employees, is providing products and services.
Yeah.
And so really the effect is not just I'm working on your books, for example, I'm helping you with your financial strategy. It's helping a whole lot of people. And I have to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because, as a creative, and even though I am an accountant, numbers don't excite me, and the accounting doesn't excite me. It's what I can do for my clients that excites me.
Yeah. Right. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Do you feel the same way about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was CFO for a lot of healthcare organizations, and what was interesting was being able, because the accounting was just about giving you data so you could make decisions, so you could understand what was going on. It wasn't, doing the accounting did not excite me. Happily, I had people to do that. But it was, how do you organize the data so it tells you something that can help you make a decision? Am I on the right course? Am I whatever? So that's what the accounting's about. And that's what I hear you saying, is that, it's not just about the cash in and cash out. That's important. But where does it come from? How are you spending it? All that sort of stuff that tells you a lot more about the strategic direction of the business.
Okay,
exactly.
So, yeah.
It's telling really the story of that business, using the numbers, and like you said, organizing and setting things up so that you can get that information, because ultimately it's data, and it's very, very valuable data. The numbers don't lie.
There you
Numbers don't lie.
I always say that.
You get the information out of in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. And
then and in my case, I feel I use my creativity to be able to do that, because I'm not stuck in this box of, well, you can only do it this way. Well, let's look at how can we find a way to do this, or do it faster, or do it better.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so here are some of my worries, and see if they're worries that other people have. I worry that no one else is going to buy the book again. So sure, it was like a fluke. Like, so every time like a new order comes in, I'm like, oh wow. Does that ever go away, or do you feel like that's just like a newbie kind of worry of like people buying your stuff, and then how do you like all the kind of, I don't know, that's just like my big worry at the moment. I'm like, I can't believe that we wrote a book that we really believe in, and that people are like buying it. That's kind of, we're not over that kind of thing.
No, I think it's totally natural, and I think really you always will. I worry a little bit. Okay, will people buy this next, or do they need this? And really, even for me in providing services, is am I meeting? What I'm seeing actually now is that I don't see business owners so focused or sitting there going, I really need bookkeeping, or I really need accounting. They're saying, I need to organize my financials, or I need to have a process and a system. And yes, bookkeeping and accounting is part of that, And so now I have to meet them at that level instead of just saying we provide bookkeeping or we provide accounting, because I think they run away when they hear that.
Yeah, and for people I'm at your website and services. So we talked about do your own books. You also handle the books for people. I'm curious what level of company should be doing that with you. And then you do a ton of consulting. So customizing QuickBooks, streamlining financial reports. I'm just reading your website. Customizing processes and flows, troubleshooting app integrations. App integrations are a huge thing, again, for people who aren't listening. So you have like a sale on, say, Shopify, and then it has to go to your QuickBooks, and how to like get them to talk is a little bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
And then profit strategy meetings with financial dashboards. So yeah, so you do a lot more than just like adding and subtracting, right? So, yeah.
And so that's where I was saying you have to evolve and you have to keep changing to then really figure out what the market needs.
Yeah.
So in your case, and like this book, I think people are voting and saying, yes, this is a great book.
Right.
We want it. It's to keep giving them more. And I think then it's finding out what do they need next.
Yeah.
Because the biggest mistake, and it's not a mistake, it's I know what my clients need, but that's not necessarily what they're telling me that they want initially.
Right.
So I have to try to meet them in the middle and give them what they want, so that then I can give them what they actually need from my professional perspective.
So interesting. Yeah, I can see that. That's really interesting. Okay, so what about taxes? Taxes scare me. I mean, they really scare me because it doesn't seem to I don't really understand them. I mean, I know I should understand them. I'm a law professor and like I'm a grown up, but it seems like I just don't understand them. And so to help me understand like when I need to tell me about taxes and what sort of worries I should have with those.
Oh, goodness. Nobody understands taxes. So first of all, you shouldn't understand taxes. And really, if you're going to ever pay professional taxes, is like, don't try to do your own taxes. But I think first of all, and especially creatives and really business owners in general, don't understand the different types of taxes that there are. So They might say, I need to do my taxes. Okay, is it your sales taxes, your company's taxes, your personal taxes, maybe even state taxes or payroll taxes? I mean, there's a lot of different taxes. Right.
Well, let's talk about sales tax. So sales tax, I understand when I'm selling wholesale, I don't need to pay tax because they've got a sale. They've got like right. So that makes sense to me because they're going to sell the book again. So I don't need to, they pay the sales tax. When I pay sales tax in person, like when we're at Houston, if we didn't go to festival, but if we did festival, then we would be paying sales tax of Texas because we're selling in Texas. But we're a Louisiana company. This is what gets me confused. So like face-to-face selling, we are selling in the Nexus is the state, and that state sales tax is what we're collecting at that point? Or are we collecting Louisiana sales tax still too?
It depends on the state. But yeah, so if you have to collect sales tax in Texas, it's because they're requiring you to do that.
So when you,
but it is the locus of the sale, is it not, that determines the sales tax?
It can. It's probably getting outside of my area of expertise there.
Right. We need a tax
So
person.
typically we look at each, because the sales tax is dependent by state, and even sometimes it goes down into different locations within the state. And so so typically if I always just would say check, we have to check with that state to make sure.
And you're only paying sales tax, like we're either paying Louisiana sales tax, or the sale can only happen in one place. Am I right? Like either it's a Louisiana sale or it's a Texas sale. It can't be that we have double taxing on that particular sale, is it?
Correct. But yes, so you're always paying sales tax just to only one jurisdiction. Now, if you're selling online,
yes, that would be my next
it's
question.
like a whole other
dreadful.
whole other issue, because then you might have what we call economic nexus.
Right.
Meaning, and that in most states now, that if you're selling online, then you might have to be collecting sales tax in that particular state where you sold your books. And it just depends on the state. Some of the thresholds are fairly high. That might be like $300,000 and up.
Yeah.
They're really trying to go after the big businesses.
Right.
But other states might be just the first sale that triggers economic nexus.
And how are you handling this as an accountant? This seems like a complete nightmare. Unless the platform is collecting the taxes, and some of them are doing it, others aren't, right? They're leaving it up to you to decide what you're collecting. And so this seems chaotic and very stressful to me.
It is, and it's actually something that is fairly new, because this happened just
last year,
I think under a year ago.
Yeah.
With the Wayfair decision, and so everybody's scrambling to adjust. But yes, it is complicated. It's something that business owners now really shouldn't be trying to tackle on their own. So they need to consult with their accountant. But in terms of then how do you track that, or how would we track that? There are apps that you can integrate or use to then determine whether you have economic nexus, and if some of them will actually even file the returns for you.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, but a lot of that too, you have to look at your exposure in different states.
Yeah.
Because once you file in that state, then you keep filing. So even if you have zero, if you're not collecting any sales tax, you have to continue to file, or either you have to then close your account, but why would you? Because you might sell there again, or you have to continue filing.
It's really interesting. It seems like we're in this crazy moment where that has not been implemented on a lot of the selling platforms, but that they have to, because if they don't, then people are going to leave their platforms. So, we see like Big Cartel leaves, which is one of the ones that we are trying right now, leaves it up to you. PayHip doesn't. They have this auto tax thing where they're putting it on. And so it's really going to, I think personally, it's going to fall to these platforms to keep competitive, because it's impossible. Like for this, it's already impossible to do all of this. And then to add that on top of it is just a nightmare.
Yeah, and it is a lot to ask for from small business owners, because you don't have that expertise, or even, okay, what if you're selling in 30 states and not having to file in every state? That's just such a burden.
Yeah.
And I understand why they did this, and they were going after the Amazons, the Wayfairs, the big companies, but maybe that's why they set those thresholds of sales of 300,000 or 500,000 and up. I understand, but the one, and I forgot I think that's Kentucky, that any sale triggers economic nexus. Like I don't know, and then is that state going to go after everybody who didn't file there, and how would they know that you sold something there? So you have to then look at your risk as well.
Super
what is the risk of you not filing?
Yeah.
And I was just actually working with a quilt designer who sells her patterns online, and she has sales in Europe.
Right.
And so technically there should be VAT tax.
Right. Well, that's what's right. Exactly.
How do you even submit that?
Yeah. So that's why I think PayHip, again, I don't work for PayHip, but what I was kind of interested in, and we may be moving to that platform because of this, is that they do collect the VAT and they submit it.
So they collect that as well? I didn't realize.
They do.
Great.
You can have a choice. So, if that's the case, like I'd rather be in a platform that's taking care of all of that. Now, I don't know what their liability is if they don't do it, or you know what I mean? Like that's a whole nother thing, but and
so it's all under, like, they have a tax ID number and all these,
I guess,
and so they're filing under the PayHip tax ID instead of,
Probably.
I guess,
because we would have to apply for a tax ID in every venue, and we haven't done that and haven't thought about doing it. So I'm guessing that they're treating themselves like a retail store. It's like they're getting stuff from us wholesale, reselling. We're paying them just a commission or something, like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. So
that's got to be what they
interesting.
do.
Okay, so here's my next worry, because you hear and I'm full of worries. And I figure my worry is other people's worry. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So we sell some. So we're going into a relationship where the company is located in Utah, and we're selling online in Louisiana. What are the taxes? Like, it seems like there's a nexus with Utah, but we're in Louisiana. What happens then when you have like strong nexus in both places? What sales tax do we charge? And like, what are we now having to pay? You know, they're a wholesaler, so we're paying the taxes, I guess. They're fulfilling the requirement from what we ask them to send somebody, and we send them money. I think we're the one, but it is their material that we're selling. So is there a nexus there? I don't know. I mean, it seems to me Louisiana is the state, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's really when we have to engage what we call a sales and use tax expert.
Yeah.
Or we call it SALT.
Yeah.
And to make sure then that, we are really looking at what are the requirements and how do we need to meet those requirements.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's one of the things we'll have to look
it's
at.
not like, you guys might have done some research already but normally, and of course, because I can't advise you also.
No, right? Yeah, no, we understand that.
But that's
really
what
do.
we would need to do is to then see and look at specifically what are the requirements, and then how do you meet those requirements.
So interesting. I find this all
a lot. What if we see? I would assume that with the machines, let's say we sell in Louisiana, we have to file use tax, sales tax in Louisiana. But what happens if it's somebody from Mississippi?
Right. Exactly.
So
and what if it's somebody in Australia? Because are they there's just a lot of questions. We're we're full of worries at this point.
Yeah.
You might have to say we just don't sell to Australia. I don't know if that's a real risk.
I don't know. But I think these are things to ask. So as we are potentially becoming a vendor, to experience that vendorness and to support our project, and and we are very we like the product, so we're really willing to do it. But it triggers all these questions, right?
Sure
yes, and you have some very valid questions, and even the fact that you're in Louisiana, because Louisiana, from the perspective of accountants around the rest of the country, it's like Louisiana's taxes are crazy and don't ever make any assumptions.
Yeah, so, right. That sounds about right for us.
But you know what? What I see most, and I see it a lot also with creatives, because I have been in the Etsy community for several years. People go and ask these questions in the forums or in Facebook groups. And then someone answers like, "Oh no, you don't have to collect sales tax." And I go, "Thank you." And then that's their answer.
I know. That happens with the law too, in these crazy ways. They're like, "Oh yeah," and they have somebody say something, and you're just like, "Oh well,
Not really.
Sure, if you want to be wrong and you haven't hired an attorney, and you get what you pay for." That's what you said before, right? So
Yeah.
Free advice on the internet's worth what you paid.
It's true. I don't know. Well, I think getting a business up and running is hard, and the financial side is really hard. So having someone like you or Joel is really, really important. So because there's a lot of things to think about, that it isn't just put something up and sell it. There's all these ridiculous, as you call it, a financial roadmap. I mean, we say that about the law too. We're making a copyright map so you can understand the law as you go. And I think that this is just, and in some way I think it's really great, because we're all learning, because we're a DIY world. So we're learning and being more respectful of okay, I think I am going to hire a professional, because this is really hard. And so I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And what I see to that, because there's such a low barrier to entry for starting a business, which is great, but I think most people don't understand that you do need to have some savings set aside for talking to an attorney, right. Then getting a consultation with a CPA or accountant, at least to get started.
Right.
And then the fees aren't cheap to do that, because of the level of expertise that we bring to the table. And I think for a lot of people, they're scared to spend that money.
Well, they don't have any to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's this kind of,
it.
well, if we could sell something, then we could pay you, but we might screw up selling it before we get to you. So it's like this whole kind
but
of
sometimes
problem.
I see a lot of times that, and I have been there of, we're afraid to make some financial investments in our business that need to be made.
Yes.
And whether it's professional services or even just, a tool that you need and something. And so we tend to go for cheap and inexpensive, or cheap, free and cheap, which is not going to get us there.
Yeah.
And I think part of being an entrepreneur is, you are taking on some risks. And some of that risk sometimes has to be financial in order to then get you to the next level.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What I have seen the most for me as an entrepreneur is that doubt and fear keep me stuck. And when I can clear my mind of the doubts and I can tackle my fears, I move forward.
I like that. I like that a lot. Any place you would suggest people go to get very basic information so they can start before they even have a conversation with you? Are there places, or do they have a conversation with you when they don't know anything? Like, are their favorite books or strategies, or what are your thoughts about that? People are listening and they're like, I don't even know where to begin. Yeah,
so I actually put together a blog for that very purpose of trying to disseminate information about bookkeeping and financials in Quickbooks.
Mm-hmm.
So that people can have a place, safe place to go to. It's free, so when they're initially, the funds are tight and they need this information. So my blog is called 5-Minute Bookkeeping.
5-Minute Bookkeeping. Okay, hold on. I'm going there.
2 Ks. Okay, you go.
5-Minute Bookkeeping. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so tell me. Oh, wait, there. Oh, look at that. Oh, there you are. Oh, it's very cool. Okay, so start here. How awesome are you? Okay, I like that. It literally says, 5-Minute Bookkeeping with 2 Ks. 5minutebookkeeping.com. We have lots of free and premium content filled with expert tutorials, tips, and tricks to help you minimize your bookkeeping and maximize your profits. Not sure where to start? Check out these. And then it has, what does it have? It has, you can join your Facebook group, and you have QuickBook online training. Awesome. Free training, please. DIY work. This is so great. Look at you. This must have taken a very long time. This is a lot of work.
It's about 5 years worth so far.
That's a lot. And so if it's free and some premium content, what was your goal in making this? Because that's a lot of work.
Yeah, initially, when I started my business, I was happy to give anybody a free 30-minute consultation.
Uh-huh.
And then as my business grew and I didn't have enough time, and I still felt such a need to help business owners, I started the blog and just really started focusing it around QuickBooks Online, because that was a fairly new platform at that time, and there really wasn't any training for it.
Yeah.
And so I've just we continue to add content along the way. I also found that I had this large following of bookkeepers and accountants.
Yeah.
So now we have content for both.
It's very cool. Look at you. This is so amazing. Yeah, this is a lot of work. This is really great. I think this is great.
It's like my baby.
It's your baby.
Along with my company.
And Bookkeeping Biz, that's the part for the bookkeepers. Is that right? On that side of it? Cool.
Yeah.
And apps. Do you have apps? What do you talk about apps? What do you do with apps? It's not letting me go.
A little bit. I tried to focus more on just how to do something on QuickBooks.
Yeah, QuickBooks.
Just basic things like how to set up a chart of accounts, or how to enter an expense, or how to work with the downloaded bank feeds. The basic things that would help someone to begin that journey of doing their own books.
I love it. This is so great. All right, 5-Minute Bookkeeping. Like, you buried the lead. This is awesome. I think this is amazing. And again, you can get to know all of it. And then when you're ready for you already are in your system to understand it. And then they can hire you. Do you feel like there's a lot of people start out at 5-Minute Bookkeeping and then they end up hiring you as their accountant?
Yes, they do. Yeah, there are people who have been following in my content for, I don't know, 3-4 years and just growing their business, and then get to the point of, okay, I need someone, and okay, I'm going to talk to Veronica.
Yeah, because I trust you.
Yeah, so it's great when I talk to people who feel like they know me because they have been engaging with my content, because then it makes it so much easier to, instead of them feeling like, well, they don't know me or they're scared, that it takes that away, and then we can just focus on, again, creating that roadmap for them.
And how did you decide which part would be premium content and which one would be free content? And what made you decide to do that?
Well, right now my premium content is actually just for bookkeepers.
Got it.
So I have an online academy for bookkeepers, and so I teach them specific workflows on how to run a bookkeeping business and how to diagnose their clients' books. So I have been building that part of it in the last year. My goal is now to start building the part for creatives now, and they're working on their own financials and going deeper into that.
Oh, so
but of course, all of this takes time.
It does take time. It really does.
But when you get that, I get the vision for what I want to do, and I've learned now it's like, okay, it's going to take a year, and I'll get it done, and just start building that out.
Yeah. Well, when you get that built out, will you come back and talk with us about it? It would be really awesome. I would love it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have other questions?
No, I admire what you're doing. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, I feel like this is the first of many conversations we have to have so I'm not going to be scared. We're going to make goals. I'm going to look at your 5-minute bookkeeping. I'm going to start where it's supposed to start and try to learn so we have better conversations. And I would love for you to come back and chat with us. It's really great.
I would love to. And just, as some advice for you, Elizabeth, and I think anybody out there, that what I see most of the time is that my clients are scared when they come to me. They're embarrassed, and they think they should know all of these financial things. And when you think about it, there is no formal training out there. Nobody's teaching you this in high school or college. It's not something that I think only 25% of the population is actually even numbers oriented. And so then to have that expectation that you should know your numbers and you should know taxes is not realistic. And so just let that go and give yourself permission to just allow yourself to be on this journey that you're on in your business and keep moving forward. And then as you can, either you're consuming this free content like on my blog, or then working with a professional who can help to point you in the right direction.
I love it. You're awesome. All right. I'm not going to be scared. I've got you and I've got Joel, and we're going to totally try to make this work. But I would love for you to come back, because we're super transparent about what we're doing, so other people can learn from our ridiculousness, and just go from there. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, love to come back. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Do you need to review this before we post?
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Hold on. Let me just turn off the recording. You've been listening to the 3rd season of Just Wanna Quilt. I'm Elizabeth. I hope you enjoyed this chat. We have a Facebook group if you want to come chat with us and hang out with us. Just Wanna Quilt. We also have an Instagram account. We have tons of things going on all the time. We're just we just say yes to everything, so we have a lot of stuff going on. We have some books if you want to learn copyright or trademark. And we also now are selling long arms. So if you're in the market for a long arm and you want a good price on one, we sell Grace Company long arms, and they're awesome. So go to our website. Thanks for listening, and I hope you come back. And for those quilters out there listening, because we do have some non-quilters listening too now, I hope you get a chance to quilt today and come play with us and show us what you've been working on.